You motherfucking tube. It's your boy, Rollo Jenkins. Just want to kick this shit back in gear and touch on something, man, that it's like everybody is everybody is conscious of, but just really not talking about. And the real problem, the real issue with boxing is this. Ever since last year, May 2nd, that whole fuckery that took all that time to happen, it just trickled down. So now you got everybody thinking that they can manufacture interest in a fight without fighting. Like, the only thing that makes niggas interested in watching two people fight is them two guys fighting. The back and forth banter, talking shit, not fighting, doing other shit don't matter. Only them two guys fighting, being inside the ring, makes us want to see them dudes fight. So for instance, as much as people would like to have been either one of those guys on May 2nd, the fact of the matter is the groundwork had already been laid years ago. That fight was 10 years in the making. You know, from the way Floyd destroyed Gotti, fought De La Hoya and Carlos Baldomir and knocked out Ricky Hatton. Took a chill pill. And then here you come with this little guy, comes all the way up and destroys Miguel Cotto. He's on pay-per-view fighting Juan Marquez. And he knocks Ricky Hatton flat the fuck out. And then he comes and stops Oscar De La Hoya. That was the groundwork for those two guys to fight each other. And everything that they did after that was just robbing the bank. None of those other fights, Floyd fighting Marquez, Pacquiao fighting goddamn Chris Algieri and Tim Bradley, none of those fights. The only thing that those fights could have possibly done was weaken or lessen the interest in those two guys fighting. But the foundation was so big and so strong that it couldn't get any weaker. I mean, even if it did get weaker, it was still the biggest boxing event, definitely this side of the millennium, hands down, undoubtedly. So, in all honesty, it's only 2 or 3 fights you can really compare it to: Jack Johnson, Jim Jeffries, Lewis Schmeling 2, Ali Frazier 1. Somewhere, Maypac in there somewhere. I don't know if it's 1. I mean, it can be argued, but I probably would rate it behind just because I know some of the history. Lewis Schmeling 2 has to be the biggest fight in history. Ali Frazier 1, and then I'll probably say Maypac. So, with that being said, you got all of these, you got too much business and not enough sport. It's just too much business and not enough sport, because none of us as fans are interested in the business. I mean, I know a lot of guys talk about it, but there is no business if the motherfuckers ain't fighting. So the business is secondary, some shit that we talk about. Hell, we have to talk about it because the motherfuckers ain't fighting half the damn time. So, and with that, you have what my boy Paul Connor has deemed the boxing game needs to be recalibrated. The calibration is way off, man, way off. You got guys like Terrence Crawford and Victor Postal fighting on pay-per-view now. And granted, I love some Bud, and I really wanted to see this fight. But we all know this fight doesn't belong on pay-per-view. So that being said, the game needs to be recalibrated. This fight coming up May 7th, that's not a pay-per-view fight. See, now it's getting to the point where we are trying to create a star for pay-per-view and not pay-per-view fights. Because if you really think about it, the proof is in the pudding. The proof has always been in the pudding. You know, you had these two guys constantly, consistently fighting on the same days every year on pay-per-view. But none of what either one of those guys did came close to what they did when they got in the ring with each other. And the fact of the matter is this: these fighters today aren't laying the foundation. All that time, all that, all those years, somebody could have taken the bull by the horns, and nobody did. The only nigga who was even close and was even close was Andre Ward. He had a chance, but what did he do? The number one thing that you can't do when you're trying to be a star in boxing is fucking not fight. That's the absolute worst thing you can fucking do, is just not fight. So I was just thinking about, let's just say since 2010, right around that time, the height of the whole Maypac debacle, fuckery, whatever you want to call it. Since that inception of them two guys circling around each other, not fighting and fighting a bunch of other people and has-beens and shouldn't haves, what were the biggest fights in boxing up until the point where those two actually did fight? I was just going through my mental Rolodex, and I couldn't really think of any big fights that didn't involve either one of those guys. I mean, when I think about it, if you take those two key players out the game, what do we have? Martinez Chavez. Was that the biggest fight not involving one of those two guys? Klitschko Hay, Canelo Trout, Ward Frock, Frock Groves, Rigo Donaire, Butte Frock, Canelo Lara, Cotto Martinez, Garcia Matisse. And the reason that Garcia Matisse is even on here, even though it being, I know it sounds crazy to have an undercard fight on here is one of the biggest fights since. But I think that if you remove Danny Garcia versus Lucas Matisse off that Canelo Mayweather undercard, I don't think that fight comes close to doing 2 million pay-per-views. I think it falls right back into the realm of, whatever them two dudes was usually doing. A mil, maybe mil and a half. I think that fight pushed the needle a lot. I could be wrong. And I think that would be equal to today them putting Ward Kovalev on the pay-per-view with Crawford Postal on the undercard. Could that push that? Would that get boxing fans so excited that we could have parties enough that pay-per-view could possibly do 1 million? I don't know. But I don't see either one of these pay-per-views doing 1 million or collectively. I don't see Ward Kovalev or Crawford and Victor Postal doing 1 million combined on two separate cards. So the calibration of the game is so off that we are put in a position to have to not really subscribe to this shit coming up on Saturday, but kind of subscribe to it because, I mean, what you gonna talk about? And if the unthinkable happens, let's say Khan gets a KO. You don't want to be the one that missed that shit live. But then on the same token, if you order this fight, it's almost like that whole vote slogan. If you ain't part of the solution, you're part of the problem. So if you order this fight, we can't be complaining about motherfuckers being divas and, making up new weight classes. All of that shit. Because everybody who's ordering the fight is adding to the problem. So we almost need this shit to bomb out in order to start getting boxing back. Because I see all of these people complaining about Triple G and the guys that he's fighting, and he needs to step up his competition and all of that shit. So let me give you a hypothetical scenario. Let's say Triple G, Canelo fight in September. Somehow, some way, Canelo pulls off the miracle, right? In essence, I know that this will obviously not be the case, but in essence, Canelo Triple G fight, Canelo knocks out Triple G. Shouldn't that automatically put him right in the position that Golovkin is in now with nobody to fight? But if that were to happen, somehow, some way, Canelo would be fighting the Gabe Rosados, the Lemieux, the Stevens of the world. I don't understand how that could not be forecast. The shadow of, in the light of this fight happening, and that shadow should be Canelo being in the same exact position that Golovkin is in now. You need to go up to 168 and fight better competition. Because if it's not good for GGG to be fighting Dominic Wade, it can't be good for the nigga who beat Triple G, right? But I never hear this opinion being expressed at all, no such way. People always say, well, his resume is so much better. That makes it even more the point. So, not only do we have this fucked up, uncalibrated scale of fighters fighting motherfuckers that they shouldn't be fighting, now we end up in this weak ass merry-go-round of the same fucking fighters all the time. We know who we're gonna get on HBO. We're gonna get Kovalev, we're gonna get Ward, we're gonna get Canelo, Triple G, and maybe Lomachenko. And those fucking 5-6 fighters are just gonna keep on rotating. So how in the fuck does anybody have a big fight? Because it's the same motherfuckers fighting all the time. How could we possibly get excited about Triple G or Canelo or Nicholas Walters or Kovalev or Ward fighting somebody if it's the same niggas on TV all the time? And check this out. Let's say it happens, Ward and Kovalev. And you pick a winner. Don't matter. Ward beat Kovalev, Kovalev beat Ward. Then what? Who they gonna fight then? What's the fight that niggas would be looking forward to? That fight would put one of them dudes probably number one pound for pound. But then we're going to end up saying the same shit, or we should be saying the same shit that everybody is screaming about Triple G. Well, now he needs to step up his competition after 2 or 3 fights. I mean, if Ward was to beat Kovalev, then who the fuck is he gonna fight? John Pascal, the nigga that Kovalev knocked out twice? Yanieski Gonzalez? Do we pull niggas up from 168? Do we fight an old ass Bernard Hopkins who Kovalev already clearly beat? Bumay Shumanov, the guy that Hopkins already beat? Who? Who the fuck would Ward be fighting then? Is he gonna go up to heavyweight and fight who? Chris Arreola? Luis Ortiz? Or do we make a pit stop at cruiserweight and fight who? Cause I ain't gonna even lie, I can't even name a fighter at cruiserweight. Marco Huck maybe? Steve Cunningham? He gonna fight Steve Cunningham? You know what I mean? Gloskov, whatever the dude name is who just beat Cunningham. Who? That's what I'm saying. So not only is the stars of the fucking game fucked up and it's all uncalibrated. Everything is all off, all out of whack. None of the levers, none of the buttons working the way they should be. Everything is out of whack. But the farm system, the guys coming up, the next level of fighters, that's all messed up, all out of whack. And like I said, it goes back to where I started. In those 5 years, these niggas was doing a rodeo around each other. All the other niggas was doing the same thing. There was a clear path for someone else to establish themselves as the next star in boxing. And somehow, someway, now we're getting stuck with everybody proclaiming Canelo the face of boxing now? How? For what? Because he had close fights with Lara and Cotto? Where's the signature win? Who is this big opponent that he's supposed to fight? Triple G, right? Who he's clearly not excited about getting in the ring with. So, I mean, you know, we could blame it on Triple G. But it ain't even really Triple G's fault. It ain't even Canelo's fault. There is no way in the world that a network with millions of dollars should not have a plethora of fighters that they could put in the ring with their guy that people would want to see fight. And the one thing smart that I can say about Golden Boy right now, they have a Super Junior Diet Middleweight Championship fight coming up this weekend. But they got all middleweight fights on the undercard. You got 4 potential guys that Canelo could possibly fight after this Super Junior Diet Middleweight Championship fight that he got coming up on Saturday. 4. Not to mention some of the other guys who are out there. So, the farm system is gone, is missing. You know? We keep getting recycled names. We're not even seeing, like, we should always have an undercard fight of guys that we could possibly or potentially get excited about fighting somebody else in the future. Now, putting Chocolatito on Golovkin's undercard all the time, it's cool to a degree, but then you end up with Chocolatito in the same position that motherfucking Golovkin is in. We need to be seeing other flyweights. We need to be seeing other middleweights. We need to be seeing other welterweights. Because I know that there's some dude who's probably fighting for $1,000 somewhere who would gladly take 10 grand to fight on HBO. And if the dude looked good enough, possibly a guy you might want to see in the ring with a Jesse Vargas, Timothy Bradley, Saddam Ali, possibly. But none of these niggas got nobody to fight. And then you got just the opposite on the other side. You got the PBC got all of these fucking fighters. Way more fighters than they fucking need. They got an overdose of fighters. You can always have too much of something. You know? But the niggas ain't fight. Listen, there is no reason in the world with all of the people and talent that is on the PBC side at 47 and 54 and 40 that all of them guys shouldn't have mixed it up already. How is it that you got Lamont Peterson? Him and Berto should have been fought. You know? But, like, you really literally got Berto in a bum fight. Why in the fuck is Victor Ortiz still on TV? Keith Thurman and Kell Brooks should have been fought. They should have been fought a year ago, a year after him and Sean Porter should have already fought. Danny Garcia should have been at welterweight. Him and Robert Guerrero should have been fought. Him and Adrian Broner should have been fought. It should have been a Ross Alka fight. I mean, I don't understand why, like with all of the fighters that they have, then there would be a big fight. You know? So, I mean, I don't know if boxing will ever be back to what it used to be. But I know one thing, that in the NFL, you never have a team get to the 5-yard line and say, you know what? The 4-yard line gonna be a touchdown now. For us, it's gonna be the fucking touchdown, but for y'all niggas, y'all can do what y'all want. But when we get to the 4-yard line, that's a touchdown for us. There will never be a team that says, when I step 2 feet inside the arc, it's going to be 3 points for us. That's what it's going to be for us. And if you want to play us, you shoot behind the arc. It don't matter. But when we shoot right here, it's going to be 3 points for us. That should have never happened. It just, like, how do you just come in and just make up, like, the shit? Like, some of the stuff that I've seen in boxing lately, I just cannot believe the shit that I'm seeing. And to hear Bernard Hopkins go on this rant about, when I went to fight De La Hoya, what the fuck do that got to do with today? Can you imagine? You come home and your girl is in your bed getting banged out by some dude. Or 2 dudes. For that matter. And you like, bitch, what the fuck's going on? And she be like, wait. Remember when you told me about you had caught your mama when you was a kid? Did you forget about that? Or your sister? Or your last girl? Whatever the case. Like, because you did some shit that was kind of weak when you fought De La Hoya. Or maybe you could. Maybe it wasn't no big deal for you. Maybe you just didn't give a fuck. Or maybe you was that thirsty. Whatever the circumstances were for you, when you did it and what you did, don't make it right for another nigga to pull that same stunt 10 years later. That don't make it right. That don't make it okay. So when you say Bernard Hopkins, that is, y'all must have forgot. Yeah, we forgot because that's some shit that we don't want to remember. It's your boy, Rollo Jenkins. Holla at your boy.